Look at that. Isn't that a great layout? You son of a gun!
This campaign is no good.
No good!
Darren and Larry, the original Mad Men on Bewitched.
Hi, I'm John Malos, and welcome to Connect with me, live on the showroom floor here on Ventura TV. That's right, live on Comcast 187 and 43.6. Today it's on the air, off the presses. We're going to talk about television news. Well, I think we'll talk about news in general. Where do you get your news from? We're going to have Jim Turpin in the house. He's the corporate news director for Titan Broadcasting. That includes KMPH Fox 26. Your phone calls are important to this program. 265-4331. We're back in a moment. And it's on the air, off the presses. You know, I'm very happy to have in the news director from KMPH Fox 26 today, because we're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about where do you get your news from right now. When you talk about social media, I would venture to say that probably a lot of people, like if there's breaking news, like a shooting or this or that, maybe the first place they hear it is on Facebook, maybe Twitter. They're looking at their iPhones and they say, oh wow, that's what happened. The last place might be to turn on the television and watch local news. I don't know, is it kind of a passing thing now? Is television news in or out at this point? We're also going to talk about ethics. How ethical is television news? How about newspapers? How about radio news? How ethical are these people? Are they reliable? Where do they get their sources from? That's the key question. You know, years ago when I started in broadcasting, you used to have 3 sources before you went with a story. Now, how do we know what to believe when things are on Facebook and Twitter and all the other social media? Well, today we have in the house Jim Turpin. He's the news director at KMPH Fox 26. KMPH has been a staple at 10 o'clock for the better part of 28 years right here in the Central Valley. Here's a sampling in case you just came in to town and you were hiding under a rock someplace. Here's KMPH Fox 26, just a sampling.
Well, Buchanan High School has created a first-of-its-kind clothes closet on its campus.
In a story you'll only see here on KMPH News, KMPH News anchor Rich Rodriguez reports the Clover School is attempting to bring community into the classroom.
It's everything you might find in a thrift store. Jeans, shirts, shoes, and sweaters. Welcome to Buchanan High's Clothes Closet. Buchanan High School is located in the midst of upscale housing in northeast Fresno. But here's an eye-opening statistic. Nearly 100 students in Clovis Unified are homeless, 5 students at Buchanan. Administrators, students, and community members huddled in December to talk about creating a closet to outfit students in need. 2 months later, they're in business. In Fresno, Rich Rodriguez, KMPH News.
Buchanan is collecting clothes, shoes, and toiletries. Drop-off boxes have been placed on the high school campus. The school closet also needs hangers, shelving, and clothing racks. And they're even appealing to not just individuals, but local businesses and clothing stores if they have extras, clothing, outsize, whatever size. Please, there are people who can use them.
Such a great idea. I mean, and we all have things in our, so many people do, things that you haven't worn in forever. I always say, which I don't always follow, but if you don't wear it for a year or a season, you're supposed to get rid of it.
Of course, you've been looking at Monty Torres and Ashley Ritchie. You want to meet their boss? There he is right there, live in our studio, Jim Turpin, the corporate news director at Titan Broadcasting, KMPH Fox 26, K-Free Channel 59. He's been in the business more than 30 years. We're going to talk to him about the social media, about the reliability of some of the sources, of some of the reporters, ethics. We'll talk about, hey, the buyout, Nexstar buying Channel 47 last year. Just last week, they bought Channel 24. What does that mean for our local market here? Jim's going to take your phone calls too, 559-265-4331. We're back. We're live. It's on the air, off the presses on Me TV.
Frigid, we introduced the first home freezer. the first pulsator agitator washer. And now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean Dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Believe me, my friends, it is not easy to be a television reporter in this day and age. It's not like it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You've got to look forward. You've got to look to the side, each side. You've got to look behind you. I think look behind you most of the time. Jim Turpin is here, the KMPH News Director, Corporate News Director for Titan. Hi, Jim. Good to see you.
John, how are you?
Yeah,
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, how are you feeling, by the way?
I feel great. I do. I feel great. I mean, considering 3.5 years ago I had a heart attack that should have killed me, I feel great. I really
not
do.
3.5 years ago.
3.5 weeks ago. Sorry, I misstated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what happened, Jim?
I was doing homework with my 14-year-old son, and he went upstairs. We finished up, and I went from feeling great, thinking about, well, what am I going to watch on television, to being on my knees, hardly able to breathe, and asking my son to call for an ambulance. And it was a pretty crazy night, but I had a great cath team that did an angioplasty, put in a stent, and they told me they thought that I would be better than ever. I had what's called the widowmaker because it kills so many people. I had 100% blockage of one artery and up the top of the heart. But yet here I am. I feel great. Everybody tells me I have my color back, and I'm walking 5 miles at night, and I took my wife to the Madeira Wine Trail yesterday, spent the day doing that, and felt great, so it was all good.
Just for some of our viewers watching out there, and by the way, the number is 265-4331. What were some of the warning signs for you for the heart attack?
Well, John, I didn't know what they were at the time, but looking back on it and knowing what I know now, which is why I urge everybody, get educated, tightness in the chest when I was exercising. It felt like my lungs were burning. I thought, well, I live in the valley. Who knows what I'm breathing? So that's probably part of it. Turns out it wasn't, although I had a doctor tell me that's probably what it was. And then I had some neck pain that I'd never had before. And it turns out that's one of the symptoms, too. I did not know. I know a lot of things now that I didn't know, and I'm preaching to every man, especially of our age, you know, we're both in our early 20s, to go out and, okay, maybe I'm lying, but to go out and get checked, get that stress test, go talk to your doctor, get tested, find out if you have any problems, because I didn't eat that poorly. My wife will tell you my diet was pretty good, and I was pretty active.
And you've lost some weight, too.
I had lost 44 pounds last year. Yes, I'm losing again now.
Right.
But, yeah, and I thought I was on the right track.
Were you trying to do too much?
No, I don't think that was
really,
it. A lot of them with me is heredity on my father's side.
Right.
And you need to check if you've got any of that in your family line. You're at risk. I don't care how much you exercise. I mean, look at really, really healthy people who throughout history who've just keeled over because they didn't know. But the joy of it is now, medical science has come so far that the angioplasty surgery is fast. It was 30 minutes for me. 30 minutes is all it took.
Yeah.
And they can hook you up to where you're going to be better than ever. And so I just urge every man to get checked.
Right. We're talking to Jim Turpin. He's the Corporate News Director for KMPH, actually Titan Broadcasting, that owns KMPH, Fox 26, and K-Free. He's been in the business a long time. Today we're going to talk about the ethics of television broadcasting or television news. Let's get into that ethics portion of it, because I mentioned at the top when I was, I was just a teenager when I first started. 3 sources. You've got to confirm a story with 3 sources. That went out the window years ago, didn't it?
It did, and it's a really, really scary landscape we have now because media believe it's okay to put tweets on the air without verifying, using Facebook posts that slander or libel people. It's just really frightening, and I think on the local level, I think a lot of stations really try to do well. On the national level, let's put it this way. If you can have a network that re-edits video to suit its own purpose, which has happened a few times recently, you can have a network put a tweet on the air that the floor of the New York Stock Exchange has flooded during a storm when it didn't happen, and nobody seems to think that's a problem. I think it's a huge problem. We viewers trust us.
What does that say about the media of today, in particular the national media?
There's less effort to confirm. In some, I hear, John, networks saying we have unconfirmed reports. Or we are hearing rumors that. I mean, you hear this all the time on network news. Why? Why would you even do that? You know, it just drives me crazy.
Why do they do that, in your opinion?
It's a ratings thing. You get on the air first. I actually had a news director tell me not long ago that he believed it was best to put things on the air and correct later. Not worry about whether it was right, just put it on the air and then correct it later. And what I teach all the people I work with around the country is, if you throw something up against the wall, some of it's going to stick, and you're never going to be able to wipe it all off, even if you try. So it's better to be right in second than wrong in first. Unfortunately, I know there are a lot of people working on the local level who agree with me on that, and I sometimes, though, I feel as if I'm a voice crying out in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so you think the competition and the drive to be first with a story, and how has social media impacted all of this with Twitter and Facebook? You mentioned that just briefly.
Well, I work with in Fresno, I work with a really talented and ethical assignments manager by the name of Sheldon Gajarian. He and I share a lot of the same ideas and ideals, and he keeps track of these things, and we have newspapers, radio stations, and TV stations that are tweeting out inaccurate information. They're hearing it on the police scanners, and they're tweeting it, and then going back later and correcting. One in particular, there was one in, I think it was either Tulare or Visalia not long ago, where there was a tweet that went out there was a SWAT team action at a home, man barricaded inside with a weapon. Well, what was really happening was a guy was sitting on the curb with a gun because he was cleaning it or something. But what are you going to do when that's out there?
But the false story came out on the social media end of it.
Yes, it did.
Right.
It did.
And that's the impact it's having.
Right.
Now, what do you believe? Do you believe what's on Facebook, or do you believe on Twitter?
Yep.
Or are you going to watch the 10 o'clock news and believe what's on there?
And that's the problem. I mean, I think if a media organization is not being honest with its listeners, viewers, or readers in its social media, I don't know how our viewers, readers, or listeners can trust us that we're being honest on the air.
So it's a mindset. It all starts at the top with management, and it's a trickle-down effect. This is how we're going to conduct ourselves. This is how we're going to run our news department. It starts at the top. It's that mindset. Is that right?
I believe so, but the newsday work moves so quickly that sometimes there's no way that I can know what's going on. Let's say I'm visiting one of our stations. There's no way I can know what's going on every minute of every day at that station. If I'm in Fresno, which is where I spend most of my time, I want to know what's going on at every minute of every day, and I think I have a pretty good handle on it, but there's no way I can know everything.
Right.
So it's a matter of us training people to do the right thing. But it might even go deeper than that, John. It could start even above the news management level. I mean, if there's such a pressure to be number one, that sometimes you feel as if, well, if I'm not number one, I'm going to lose my job. And so you do whatever you have to do, you think you have to do, because what you think you have to do and what we really have to do are two totally different things. You do what you think you have to do to keep your job.
Right, but if you're wrong on a big story, you could lose your job too.
That's true, because
so it's a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But so many viewers, I think, are becoming more, I'm not sure if it's immune or numb to the junk that's out there. In other words, I see so many networks doing bad things, but people still watch. And that's another thing, there's the stratification of network news. You know, we got one network that staked its territory out way to the left, one that staked its territory out way to the right. You got others that say that they're right down the middle, but they're really not. And then you have people have to make choices on that. Do I believe them because of that? I do, because I agree with them, or I believe the same thing philosophically they do. So they're going to allow those networks to make a lot more mistakes because, well, that's the way I believe. So you have that too. I mean, media in the United States has become so stratified right now. I mean, everybody's staking out their own places to be, and very few people are trying to do news right down the middle.
We do have to take a break, but I do want to take a call first. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me with Jim Turpin. How are you?
Pretty good. You know, I remember a local reporter. His name was, well, I can't remember. Then he went to the national network, and I've noticed that there's a few national correspondents who, when they send in a report, they give the KMPH byline. I'm wondering how do they do that? 'Cause you know, they're not with KMPH anymore. They're not with the national.
Okay,
I
thank
understand
you.
what he's saying.
Yeah.
We at KMPH is an affiliate of CNN and of Fox, and what will happen is if one of the reporters from there does a story for KMPH, we can go to them and say, okay, please identify that you did it for us. And so they'll say, reporting for KMPH, I'm whatever the name is, where they are.
And in turn, in the intro, the lead into the story, you say that, from KMPH News Partner.
Right.
I've noticed that as
Yes,
well.
yes. And we're partners with both Fox News and with CNN.
Right. Okay, we're talking with Jim Turpin. He is the corporate news director for Titan that owns KMPH Fox 26 and K-Free Channel 59. Your phone calls are important. If you got a news question, 265-4331. We're back with more On the Air, Off the Presses in a moment.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Warning, warning. Danger, danger. A Strange World is on MeTV.
A world somehow like ours, but of incredible darkness and fear.
What is the show called?
It has been called many different names by many different cultures.
Oh, I know. It's called Lost in Space. Saturday at 8, 7 Central on MeTV.
The question is, where do you get your news from? Do you still get up in the morning and drink a cup of coffee, maybe have a cigarette? That's bad for you. Don't smoke. Anyway, do you read the local newspaper? Is that where you get your news from and then toss it and forget about it the rest of the day? How do you get your news? More and more people are getting it from their iPhones, from Twitter and Facebook, and we're talking with Jim Turpin, the corporate news director for Titan Broadcasting and KMPH Fox 26. Let me ask you something, Jim. How do you instruct your reporters and your anchors when they go out on a story? What's the #1 and #2 rule from Jim Turpin's side of it?
Accurate and fair, because...
Do you tell them not to worry about being first?
Well, of course I want to be first, but I want to be right.
But what do you sacrifice being right for being first? No, right?
We would never do that. And I'll tell you this, at KMPH I work with a bunch of people who agree with me. Yeah. They really do. And
so there's no argument from them.
No,
they
not
agree
at all.
with you.
Yes. Yeah. I know everybody's going to say this about where they work, but this is a great place to work. I mean, from Jack Peck, the vice president, general manager on down, I work with some of the most talented people around at KMPH. I really do. They're very good. But our folks know there's a difference between accurate and fair. You can be accurate, but not be fair to the person that you're covering.
Be right first. Is that your motto?
No. Oh, yes.
Be right first.
Right.
And second, if you can beat the competition, fine.
Right.
Yeah. But you got to be right.
Well, yeah, we feel like we have people who understand the job, and they've gotten enough coaching, teaching, and training to where they understand they can be first and be right. And but here's the thing, John. Everybody is in this business, or everybody's a human being. And human beings, God made us fallible. He made us, we make mistakes. So every news organization, no matter how much they say we're always going to be right, they're not always going to be right. They're going to be wrong from time to time. And I think you can judge a news organization by how clearly and quickly it corrects and where it corrects.
Right. You're going to be wrong, but I think you have to go back to the original approach. Is your approach going to be, are you going to be, your mindset is, I want to be first, whether it's accurate or not, or do I want to be right first, and then secondly to that, let's try to beat the competition.
Right.
So even with that motto, let's be right and accurate, you're going to be wrong sometimes.
Yes, you are.
Because we're all human.
Yes, you are. Or you're going to have somebody you interview out in the field and bring breaking news that's not who he or she says he is.
Right.
Or somebody's going to give you wrong information. Even the police department sometimes gives you wrong information. It doesn't want to. It just happens.
Right.
And so you have to go in and you have to verify and correct. And as long as media organizations do that, I think there's a difference between being wrong because you're just being careless and wrong because you made a mistake. Mm-hmm. And I think that viewers should understand the ones are wrong just because they made a mistake. And if they go back and correct it and tell you, hey, not just correct it, but say, we were wrong, we made a mistake, I think you can trust them, because they're not going to do that if they don't want you to believe in them.
When I first came to Fresno, everyone told me that, the 10 o'clock news, people watch it because we have farmers here in the Central Valley. They go to bed early. They watch the first 10 or 15 minutes of the 10 o'clock news on KMPH. Then they go to bed and wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Why has the 10 o'clock news, in your opinion, been a staple here for 28 plus years?
I mean, I'm not stupid. I mean, I understand that the 10 o'clock time period is a prime slot. It really is, because people really do want to watch the news a little earlier than on Pacific time or Eastern time and then go to bed. I understand that. But you can't keep people coming back. And again, we don't subscribe to Nielsen, so any ratings information I have, I get from people who do. But you can't keep coming back, people coming back, unless you're doing something right. And I know right now we have American Idol, we have X Factor, we have all these other shows. We're holding a huge amount of that audience, and if you can do that, you're doing something right, because those aren't traditionally news viewers, and so they're sticking around. And our 10 o'clock news does huge numbers. It does really, really well.
And theoretically, no competition, with the exception of KAIL that now just added Channel 30's newscast at 10 o'clock. Do you see that as competition?
Oh, of course it's competition, but I relish competition. Everybody I work with does. We just said, bring it on. You know, we feel like we have a really good product. We have really good people doing the product, and so we're ready to compete against anybody.
Right. Well, we do have a phone call. We got to take a break, but let's take the call first. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. How are you?
All right. How are you?
Good. Good.
Yes. Well, I'm calling in to make a comment that I see on here about the news. To me, it's a generational thing. It seems like everybody's into their electronic equipment. I'm actually myself trying to get into that. I'm in my early 50s, but you know, the one thing that I think is very concrete about this country is the newspaper and news broadcasting. And I know that a lot of them do tend to, you know, over-exaggerate things and try to get the news up and going in a hurry, and by doing that they miss the facts a lot of times. But for me, it's something that I kind of depend and rely upon, and I think a lot of other people do as well. As well. So I'm kind of new to Fresno, and I got to say that KMPH I really do like a lot, especially Monty Torres. I find him to be very professional, and he takes his job seriously, and that comes clearly across the screen. And I appreciate that. And basically, that's all I wanted to say. I want to call in and make that comment.
Okay. Thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it. That's not a plant, though. That's not a plant.
Very kind of him.
Yeah, very kind. He likes the 10 o'clock news. Yeah. All right. We're going to be back with more of our conversation with Jim Turpin. He's the corporate news director of Titan. We'll ask him about some of the personalities on KMPH and much more when we come back, and your phone calls in a moment.
Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're the save energy, save time, save money place. The Energy Star qualified, ready, steam-equipped, high-efficiency Frigidaire affinity place. You heard right. Right now, save big on select Frigidaire laundry pairs and pay no interest when paid in full within 6 months. At the hometown low price, think outside the big box place. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
And we're back. What about some of the personalities on the KMPH 10 o'clock news? You've got Rich Rodriguez, you've got Monty Torres, you've got Ashley Ritchie now. Eric Rosales is one of your reporters as well. What do you think of that news team and some of the personalities?
I couldn't be happier. I mean, obviously, Ashley is the newest member of our anchor team. She earned the promotion. I talked to anchor candidates and agents all over the country. We flew one in, but after we did that, it became very apparent to me that Ashley had a ton of potential. She's local. She grew up in Visalia, or as Jimmy Buffett said, she grew older but not up. That's the way I feel about things anyway. And she's just a great person. I mean, not only is she a really good anchor, and she's just getting better and better and better, she's a great person. That's the thing that I tell everybody that we're recruiting when we're recruiting somebody to come to work in Fresno. This is the most drama-free newsroom I've ever worked in. It really is. It really has a team atmosphere, and you don't see that in a lot of TV newsrooms. You know, we unfortunately are an industry that's inhabited by a lot of shallow people who like to try to walk over your back to get where they have to go. There's none of that.
It's ego-driven.
It is ego-driven, and we all have egos. Every one of us does, but it's confidence, not cockiness.
Last week, Nexstar bought Channel 24. Last year, they had purchased Channel 47. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. I'm hearing stuff like they might combine their newsrooms. They could combine their newscast. Nobody knows. What kind of an impact do you think this might have on this market?
Well, Nexstar is, they're not investment bankers. Nexstar is a TV company. The people know what they're doing. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm confident they'll combine the operations. I'm confident they'll work on one product and brand it differently, and it'll be a strong operation. Nexstar knows what it's doing, and it's not going to want anything less than really good.
Jim, what separates you from the competition? 24, 30, 47. Why should people watch the 10 o'clock news? What's different about your newscast as opposed to Channel 30, let's say?
Well, you know, I don't want to say, when I talk about ethics, I'm not talking about one broadcaster in particular, but you know, you can count on us to try to do the right thing at all times. We don't report bomb threats. We don't report hoaxes. Why? You know, the media just go nuts. There's a good one. There's a bomb threat at a local school. There's no bomb. Terrorists don't call in threats.
You're not going to report
We're not going to report it at all. No, because what does it do? It causes more.
Unless, heaven forbid, a bomb goes off.
If there is a device found, then we get all over it. But what you get differently with us, besides that, is we tell stories. We tell stories about real people. You know, we don't talk to a lot of suits. We try to give people information they really need, that they can live better lives.
All right. Kim and Kopi, they anchor the Great Day show. They have for years. Let's turn back to the monitor now and take a look and a listen to Kopi Soteropoulos coming back after a long layoff.
Okay, so you've been sending emails, Facebook messages, calling the station, even stopping us on the street to ask, where in the world is Kopi?
Yes, the man, the myth, the legend, Kopi himself is here to explain what's going on.
Crazy people.
Oh, man.
It's great to be back here. It's great. It's just wonderful. I've missed it so much, and I just want to say thanks for all the well wishes from the staff and everyone out in the community. Just wonderful. Emails on Facebook, everything. From the bottom of my heart, thank you very, very much.
Where have you been?
Well, you know, Bahamas for 3 weeks. In my dreams. No, I had throat surgery. You know, before I got off the air for a couple of months there, I was having trouble finishing a show, and we could all say, without laryngitis, a bit of a problem, cold, who knows. And then one day I thought, you know what, maybe I should go to a doctor.
Yeah.
Duh. So I went to an ENT specialist. And
ear, nose, and throat?
Yeah, ear, nose, and throat. They left the brain portion out because there's nothing up there anyway, so we left the B part out.
A scary time for Kopi. Of course, he was out with throat surgery. Jack Peck had throat surgery. He actually had cancer. You had a heart attack. Man, everybody's getting sick at KMPH. I wish you guys the best out there. But what does Kopi mean to the organization?
Oh my gosh, well, Kopi is just a wonderful ambassador.
We only have a minute, Jim. But
yeah, and I could talk all day about Kopi. The only thing I'll do is I'll look straight in the camera and tell people Kopi's friendliness is not an act. That's really him. He is just one great guy. I mean, he means a lot to KMPH, but he means a lot to Fresno too. And he's just a fabulous man. Not only is he great on the air, but he's just a fabulous guy too. He really is.
Right. He should almost be like the ceremonial mayor of Fresno in a way, along with the KMPH news anchor title, I guess you could say. Yeah.
And he'd be a great ambassador for the city, too.
No question about it. Quickly, we got less than a minute now. Mobile television. Right. Is that a thing of the future? Yes. And what's the future of local TV?
Oh boy, that's a good question. The thing we know is that when breaking news happens, people are still coming back to local TV. They come back in droves. Even if they're internet users, they still come to local TV for breaking news and breaking weather. Mobile TV to me is a huge deal. In Asia it already is. Here, I mean, you've got so many providers that don't have unlimited data. How's that going to affect it? I mean, I don't know, but we're working on getting bigger in that.
Right. Jim Turpin, would you come back?
I will.
We'd love to have you on as a regular.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you.
We'd love to have you on as a regular if you can. Jim Turpin, the corporate news director at Titan Broadcasting that owns KMPH Fox 26, K-Free, Channel 59. Hey, tomorrow our guest is going to be the general manager of American Ambulance. A very interesting program. We'll see you tomorrow. If it's Me TV, you're watching Connect with Me.
you like me?
Just like me.
Like Me TV Fresno on Facebook. Get the latest news, interact with others, watch videos, become a fan of me. Exclusively brought to you by Ventura TV.